Scotty, I can't change the laws of physics. I got to have 30 minutes.
We should have left those false-faced goons in the transporter. That's right where they were.
Another technical journal, Scotty?
Aye.
Don't you ever relax?
I am relaxing. Gave them to the Klingons. Aye, sir. Before they went into warp, I transported the whole kit and caboodle into the air engine room, where there'll be no trouble at all.
She'll launch on time, sir. And she'll be ready.
Hello, computer.
Scotty, keep things together till I get back.
I always do.
NCC 1701. No bloody A, B, C, or D.
James Doohan, you're needed on the set. James Doohan?
Today on RB's Toy Box, we're going to talk about connections, and the purpose of this is to showcase the James Doohan chair here, right? But moreover is how I came across the chair. You see, sometimes when you go to thrift stores or you go to antique stores or you go to, wherever, and you pick up your Star Trek merchandise or your collectibles, you sometimes miss the story. You sometimes miss the background behind what made that special to that person. Now, in some of my collection, obviously, I've gone through and given you a few of the stories that, made it very special to me. Whether it was my first camera and the story behind that, or whether it was my first Star Trek piece, or what about the motion picture really, set me as a child and gave me some vision. And in many ways, Star Trek is a semblance when you look at the stories behind each one of that, because Star Trek in itself is a story. It developed from more than a script and a show to something that meant something to somebody. Each episode, somebody connected to that episode. Now, you guys know, when Star Trek first came out, the creator, Roddenberry, he was very much wanting to tap into the storyline of the day and try to tackle some of the issues of the day, dealing with, human rights and, dealing with disparity between colors and, outcasts of certain civilizations. And that's good because, he was establishing that. But it became, again, more of that storyline, especially when you listen to, Nichelle, who recently passed away. You listen to her story and the impact that the show had, not just to the point of being an actress, but where it took her beyond that. And once she bought into the storyline and inserted herself even more into the role, she became a role model. And as a role model, she was able to have a greater effect on society than she could have if she just played the part. And for Scotty, James Doohan's no different. When you read over the influences that Star Trek allowed him to have, and then in turn the influences that his character had on others, the Suicide Story that you can look up online, and some of the things where he could bring his kids on the set, and listen in some of the stories that Chris, his son, had about it, and his recreation of that character in Star Trek Continues. But for everybody, there's a story behind it. And this one is no different. I came across someone who just went to one of the Star Trek forums on social media, Facebook specifically, and was like, hey, you know, my father recently passed away. We need to, you know, raise a little money. What is this chair worth? And I'll show you some closer footage of it, but it's the director's chair. It was one of 1,000 that was created that has a signature, a numbered signature from James Doohan, and it was for the premiere of what was then called The Next Generation, the movie. We know it now today as Generations, but this was kind of the chair that they had for, you know, when he was going to do that, and they made it a commemorative chair with the signatures. Now, this individual, you know, again put out there, and a lot of people came back and like, you know, it's not worth anything, and so forth. And you know, I saw it and I wanted it, but I didn't know how much they were worth. And so I went ahead and went on to eBay and a couple of other places and found where, you know, the listing price for these chairs was in the upwards of $450 plus. And you know, at the time I couldn't come up with $450. You know, budget's is budget. So I communicated with this individual through social media, and I said, hey, you know, I'd really love to have the chair, because I threw out a bid that was higher than what everybody else was saying. And just at the time they were getting ready to say okay, I was like, no, stop. If you really need this chair to be sold for money, especially for funeral expenses or something that comes along after someone passes away, then you need to hold on to this chair, and you need to get what it's worth, which is going to be, you know, hopefully $450 and up. And so they went through, I guess, and looked at some of my Star Trek collection and collectibles and so forth, and they came back and said, you know what, we would really like for you to have this chair. And they gave me an offer that was less than the $450, but above what everybody else was saying that they wanted to pay. And I agreed, and they shipped it out to me. And I asked them, as part of this, I'm like, this has got to have a story behind it. Tell me a little about this chair and why it meant, you know, something to the previous owner. His name was Robert, and I'm reading off a screen up here where the information they gave me. Robert taught people how to trade in the stock market. He loved teaching and loved his Star Trek. He would watch it every day until he passed away. He said he'd see something new each time he watched an episode. I surprised him. This is his wife writing, by the way. I surprised him one time when he was speaking at a conference in Las Vegas and took him to the Star Trek experience. Part of the attraction was being beamed up. He thought that was the greatest thing ever. Robert on the bridge of the Enterprise D. Bringing this all back, this comes into a story. Now, a story for me, obviously Star Trek, starting out with, you know, Captain Kirk, 1979, 78, when the previews started rolling out for it. And, you know, like I had mentioned before with Star Trek, it was all about buttons. And obviously, right off the bat, Scotty became my favorite character because, you know, he was the guy that controlled the buttons. He was the guy that they went to for more power. He's the guy that had the answers to all of the problems, basically, that they dealt with on Star Trek. If you think about it, just about every other episode, Scotty was the one who saved the day. And so, even in my collection, you know, I've got my little Scotty bobblehead, and I've got some signed pictures on the wall downstairs as you go, you know, my Star Trek Glory wall for the movies. I've got ties with Scotty on it. I've got pictures with Scotty. I've got, you know, all of these different things, plates, you know, the Playmates characters. I have all of the ones of the Playmates. Just anywhere I could get a hold of what was available that I could afford of something that had to do with James Doohan, Jimmy, and his legacy that he had in, again, not only just the character, the actor, but the storyline, and the influence it had on other people that became part of their story. So let me wrap this video up with this mindset. Consider the stories that you go into. Take time. If you go to, you know, let's say a yard sale and they're selling some Star Trek items, you know, even if it's just a cup or a collector's item or a plate, or, you know, if the opportunity is there, find out a little bit about the previous owner. Find out a little bit about the story. That will enrich the collection experience, not just for Star Trek, but for all of the collectibles that you might have. You know, it might be somebody that's got something with James Bond or the Muppets, or like me with the Black Hole, or 2010 A Space Odyssey, or even the Indiana Jones Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers. Those all have stories to me. They were very important shows for me when I was growing up. They helped me see outside the borders of my living room and helped me develop character traits that perhaps I didn't even realize until I got older, and then I found myself saying something or doing something that I could relate back to that movie or that television show. So finding out a little bit about the story behind the collectible will help enrich your collection experience. Now, if this video was something that you enjoyed and you want to see more like them, make sure you hit that like and subscribe down below. Share it with all of your friends. In between these videos, I have the little short videos or shorter videos of my different collection and new things that come along. I've got a lot of new little collectibles that we brought in from different antique stores and thrift stores that we've gone to here recently. But make sure you avail yourself. Become my friend on Facebook, Instagram as well. But I look forward to seeing you again here on RB's Toy Box. Stay collecting.